How connected is the party Alternative für Deutschland with that kind of, with the far-right neo-Nazi groups? I don't know too much about that party, actually. Can you tell me more about the AfD?
It's quite interesting because back in 2014, when they started out, they were sort of a center-right, classically liberal, kind of economically liberal kind of party, socially conservative. So they were trying to span this spectrum of being conservative and liberal at the same time, which is not impossible. It's not a contradiction in terms, but it's a difficult thing to pull off. But of course, what happened was that the far right fringe of the party, which grew quite quickly, took over the party more or less, and now you have some very dodgy people running the show. And if you follow the news, like in Germany at all, it's every couple of weeks there's some scandal involving some neo-Nazi activity of someone. Their youth organization has already been labeled as officially labeled as far-right extremist. So it's their youth organization, but of course that doesn't really reflect back onto the main party, because they're much more careful in what they're doing. And I think, like, following the discourse about the AfD, like outside of Germany, I think a lot of people make the mistake of not taking into account the history and what saying certain things just means in the historical context of Germany. They're not just another, right-wing, right-of-center sort of like party. I think they, in my opinion, and I share that opinion with a lot of observers, there's something pretty sinister going on there, and it's difficult to pinpoint, but there's always this little things popping up where someone like Bernd Höcke uses a Nazi slogan, and then just obviously, I mean, he's a historian, I think, at least he studied history to some extent, and so he knows, right? But then he kind of gets off to saying, "Oh, I didn't know." And so it's trying to push those boundaries. They're trying to sort of, provoke a reaction, and that really benefits them. And of course, there's, the problem with those parties in general is that a lot of the issues that, they have made their main concern and that they're identified with were neglected by the rest of the political spectrum for too long. And, the issue of immigration. And I don't know if you heard about the recent knife attack, mass stabbing just a couple of days ago in Solingen, in Germany. 3 people died. Syrian immigrant, Islamist motive. I mean, and nobody, everybody's just, shying away from, calling a spade and saying, there is a problem. There's a problem. And these people are saying that there's a problem. And of course, ordinary people see that there's a problem. So, who are they going to vote for? But they're buying, by voting for the AfD, they're buying like a whole package of things that they might not want and that might be dangerous for democracy.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels to me as though I'm surprised that it's kind of the opposite of what I see happening with Giorgia Meloni's party and also with Marine Le Pen. I mean, as far as I can tell, Marine Le Pen has quite successfully denazified her party. Giorgia Meloni has also proven to be far less far-right than I was fearing that she would be. In both cases, I mean, I don't support either of those parties, but in both cases, they are more paper tigerish than I thought. But the AfD does seem very different in that regard.
Yes. Part of the reason also is that they've absorbed a lot of the far-right extremist underground groups that have been around for decades, again, especially in Eastern Germany. And now you see the same people who used to march for the NPD, for instance, or NDP, the so-called National Democratic, and they have like the parties with democratic in their names, I mean, obviously.
Yeah, it's a red flag.
And it's like it's always weird. But you see the same people now marching for the AfD, and the tattoos I mentioned earlier, of the swastikas and the portraits of Hitler and Himmler and Goering and all those people. These people are now in the AfD. They might not be sort of, front benchers, but, they're there, and they're, a lot of conspiracy theorists and so forth. You have that in other parties as well. But I think there's a difference, and the difference, again, comes from our special situation in Germany, from our history and all that. The AfD will be anti-Semitic once in a while, but by and large, they're actually pro-Israel as well, which is quite interesting. So in their case, obviously, it's sort of like they're viewing Israel as sort of like a bulwark against Islamization, right? So that's sort of like which in a way it is. I mean, it's out there, but that obviously makes things even more complicated, because you have people on the far left and people on the far right kind of, agreeing on that for different reasons. But of course, the AfD doesn't want to hear about German guilt or anything like that whatsoever. So they will deny that. There's this, I forget who it was, one of the AfD elders, who really sort of caused a scandal for downplaying the Third Reich, calling it, what do you say? I think he said Fliegenschiss. So fly crap, or whatever you want to. It's difficult to translate.
Chicken,
yeah, like
I was going to say
like
chicken shit, but that means something different.
It means something different.
It's trivial.
But like a minor stain on like 1,000-year German history, right? But causing one of, I mean, if not the worst war in history, the Holocaust. I mean, it's not minor. It's not minor. And a lot of people, most people in Germany acknowledge that, and that also, just to bring it back to the current situation with Israel, it's, to a lot of people, left and right, and also far left, it's quite clear that Israel's safety is connected to that history, and that we have to support it.